I think a lot of ladies tend to lean towards the sisterhood in these moments. What's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Mont, you're
I'm
muted.
sorry. I'm sorry. Y'all can hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you, brother. We
What's
see
going
you. We see that you moisturized the beer before you got on. It's all
Oh
good.
no, I ain't. This going dry in the motherfucker. I ain't even touch it. I put some of this on. I put some. I ain't want my lips to be dry though. So.
Listen, man, because you know they was gonna be
Yeah.
coming for you crazy. If so, what's
Yeah.
going on, man? Now, just to clarify, everybody, Mont is somebody that you may have seen before. He's been on different podcasts and panels and platforms, right?
Yeah, I'll be bored. So.
Okay, all right. So, what's your feedback and thoughts about today's discussion or questions you might got in general?
So I have a difference in opinion
Mhm.
than most guys when it comes to this. I find that most men, not you in particular, but most of the guys, typically don't strive to see this from other perspectives. And I think that when we at least attempt to see things from other perspectives, that's where we kind of start to at least, come together.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of the opinions that men and people do have, like for example, in the comment section, somebody said that when she said that that Steph wasn't her first choice, that's kind of what kind of threw them off. And I'm like, a lot of this stems from misquotes, and just like, I'm a stickler for that. Like I listen very closely, and I think I owe people that to listen very closely to what you say. And a lot of people just frivolously just like switch words around, and they don't understand how important like one word can change the entire meaning of what somebody says. So I think a lot of this stems from that. And for example, you earlier, probably about 5 minutes ago, you mentioned if LeBron James has said the same thing, would this reaction be the same? And I think that it would be the same.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah, and I want to get
you said that if LeBron James says the exact same thing, it's going to be the exact same response.
Yeah, and I want to give context, right?
Okay.
So when you said it, you pretty much left out the part where she said, I feel like, I'm not getting that attention. So I feel like, is there something wrong with me? Kind of like, I feel like I'm not attractive, because she's always been insecure. If you watch her interview, you can tell from the beginning when she was young, she just was filled with insecurities, and it's probably never going away. She's probably just now being able to deal with it. But I think if LeBron James said, hey, I don't get any attention, and sometimes I just feel like maybe I'm not attractive, I think all the women would have probably tried to console him, because that's how women are. Like, no, even if he was ugly, they'd be like, no, you're handsome. You know what? You're not bad. I think when we give all of the context, I think things start to change. But when we leave out small things, it just it can kind of like really muddy things up. So I think most of this is due to just several things, misquotes. But another thing is just like, if I'm gonna listen to somebody, I'm going to always start in good faith.
Yep.
I'm going to try to look at your body language. I'm going to try to listen to how you say it, and I'm going to put in the effort to try to understand what you're saying, even if it takes me off, catches me off guard. If I'm going to engage in a conversation, let me try to put myself in your shoes. And I think that most of what she's ever said, I don't think it's been deeply private, as far as their relationship. Now, maybe it might be private to her as an individual, but she never told us like if Steph ain't putting it down in the bedroom. Like, we don't know what meat size. We just pretty much know that you are an insecure woman. You grew up insecure, and you're at a different place in your life that you didn't expect to be. These are like these are kind of really common when you think about it. These are really common things for a woman or a guy who gets married young. And I think when I watched the interview, and she actually, because I had a different opinion before I watched the interview versus when I watched it. When she told me about her childhood and how she was always into acting and entertainment and art, and she left and went to LA to chase her dream, I really understood the idea of how she always viewed herself as becoming a star in whatever relationship she would be in, and she might marry a normal guy. It's like, I used to think I was going to play football. I thought I was going to be in the NFL. I would never expect to be with a woman who's a superstar, and I'm not the superstar. And I think it's extremely common to process and try to deal with over time the mourning of that dream. As somebody who grew up with that really being ingrained into them, I think that's very common. Now, as far as if she should be talking about it online, I think that's up to her relationship. I think she should talk to Steph. I think he should be like, hey, are you uncomfortable with me expressing myself, or how about cross any lines? That should be up to, and if he feels like she crossed lines, then absolutely, like, tone it down. Don't do interviews, maybe. But objectively looking, I don't think she's necessarily said anything egregious to me personally. So
cool. Hey, I appreciate that. You did share a lot of feedback about a couple different things in terms of the gravity of what she said, whether or not he's cool with it. Context for you really matters, or at least the idea of her being taken out of context were some potential things. Before I give a comment or response to those things, Taylor, what do you think?
I appreciate, Mott, that you really value the words that people say in context. You really value context and perspective.
Thank you.
Why are you laughing?
I read a comment. I'm sorry.
Okay, you in the comments. Okay. I don't know where the evidence is that the public would respond to LeBron, that women in public would respond to LeBron in a comforting way. I'm curious to know, what evidence you have. What makes you think that? Aside from like how women are.
So just to clarify, so the audience is made aware, your question, Taylor, is what is the evidence that if LeBron James said he desires and wishes he got attention from other women because he feels ugly or he doesn't feel attractive anymore, what's the evidence that women would react the exact same way in terms of support as they would Aisha?
Yeah, that they would comfort him.
Okay.
It's based on and all this, of course, it can't be based on anything like statistics or anything like that, but I think it's based on my general understanding of how women respond to the insecurities in other people, particularly, I wouldn't even say particularly men, but I think that if LeBron said exactly what she said, right, and not taken out of context and misquoted, but if he said, my wife gets so much attention, she's so beautiful, but nobody really says anything to me, and it's just like sometimes I wish I kind of, women did show me a little bit of attention, because it just has me questioning, am I attractive? Am I ugly? Is there something wrong with me? I think a lot of women would take that opportunity to try to console him, even if he actually was ugly. We see that. I think we see that a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen a woman do that to somebody who wasn't attractive, or kind of like. And a lot of times women know other women, so they fish for compliments. Sometimes a woman might be around, she might be like, oh my god, I just this, that, and the third, and a girl would be like, oh no, girl, you're beautiful. And it's just like the nature of women. No, I think if he was just being cocky, it would be different. But I think when people kind of show that vulnerability, I do think women tend to lie to comfort them, or just try to comfort them if even if it's telling the truth. But they're willing to lie to do it also.
Yeah.
So Taylor, related to your question, my lens and my experience, both in therapy sessions, in the private practice over the last decade, and just what we observe and see, I actually think they'll lean more towards the sisterhood in situations like this, where if a man and woman's involved and a man says exactly that statement, that he desires attention from other women, regardless of the reason, even if it's the exact same reason, I think a lot of ladies tend to lean towards the sisterhood in these moments. The majority of women will lean towards feeling sympathy and sorrow for somebody. They're going to feel it for Savannah. They're going to feel like she's being disrespected. They're going to feel like she deserves better. Like you may be surrounded by the most incredible, empathetic women, who I agree with you will do that with men that are single and are ugly. or not very attractive, oh, don't worry, they'll show sympathy then. But a very well off guy on this level, as is Aisha, in the public eye with a gendered counterpart that everybody knows, if it's a woman, and especially one that a lot of women like, admire, respect, and look up to, I think you're forgetting that other piece, that a lot of ladies they will typically rock with the women and the woman in this scenario, and they may not be as forgiving as perhaps you might think.